Byron Friday, how you doing?
Dale Holmes, rocking the podcast. Yeah.
I think when I first did a podcast way back, I think you were one of the first guys that was already kind of on it. Like you just always knew about podcasts and you've always got up to date advice and stuff. You've been a early starter in this game, right?
Yeah, definitely. I found out from Adam Curry. I was reinventing my career after the Trek deal ended and getting into website building, getting into internet. I found out about this thing called Google. I found out about podcasts, and basically technology became my career for, the past ever since the early 2000s.
Yeah, no, I can totally remember. You was always give me advice, good advice on it. And yeah, I think every time I listen to a podcast or something, then I talk to you. You've already listened to it, like you're a big podcast guy, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And here's one thing that a lot of people don't understand is why I pitched it to some BMXers and motocross companies is that iTunes, okay, Apple Podcasts, if you have audio hosting, Apple will host your podcast for free. So think about this. You can produce a podcast and Apple will stream it to the world on all Apple devices for free and all desktop devices that have iTunes for free, for no money. That's insane. That
It
would
is.
cost millions of dollars before.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. I never even thought about it looking like that. But
Free advertising.
yeah, absolutely. Well, let's jump into it because me and you talk all the time. I've known you a very long time. I knew who you were when you came to Europe. That's what we're going to talk a little bit about. But I also know you as a friend when I first moved to America fully in 1996. I came and spent 2 or 3 weeks with you up in LA, and we had a great time, right? Remember that in base?
Yeah, buddy. That's when I was on the Trek program and BMX was booming. There was there was massive amounts of cash coming into the sport. And for me, I had already been retired. I retired probably end of '84, maybe '85. And so when I got back into BMX, there was all this money. And so I came in as from the management side for teams and marketing. And so for me to get a chance to see the new generation and hang out, one thing I was particularly interested because BMX evolved from European motocross. I was always so interested that now Europeans and also riders from the UK were coming to the USA. So
Hmm.
it was awesome for me because I saw from BMX from the earliest days when when BMX was not a sport when we started. It was not a sport, and it birthed into a sport. So to come in a decade and a half later and hang out with you guys and it's blowing up, it was just like my heart, man. It's awesome. Love it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I remember you took me went over to Greg Hill's house and we did gates with Greg, and Harry Leary was there. And then Greg had his little pump track before they were called pump tracks, right? And I've still
Yeah.
got video of all that stuff, so I should post a bit more of that stuff up. It's really cool, and we hit a couple local trails up there. Can you remember what the trails were called?
Yeah. The trails, there was Jay's at Topanga.
Topanga.
There's some big stuff. Okay. And then Tampa and Chatsworth, which was more technical, just local San Fernando Valley trails. But every rider that we took there, it was technical and big, but different than sheep. But so anyway, it was a lot of fun.
You know what I learned from you as well? Good advice. I don't know if you remember this. You told me, um, Dale, just talk to all the girls, even the ones that you're not interested in stuff, because when you do find a girl you like, you've got all that experience of talking to girls, so you'll know what to say instead of going up there all stiff and being all like. So I'm like, that's good advice.
Yeah. Well, and one area where that stemmed from when I was in London at the Hippodrome and I stiffened up like a board and I wouldn't talk to anyone. And me and my Ricky Miller left the Hippodrome, and we didn't even talk to anyone, which we could. We're Americans. I had
Yeah.
long hair. Okay.
Mhm.
Oh, I didn't have long hair, but I'm an American. I could have went up and talked to any bird, and I didn't. So from then on, it was like, Byron, you're stupid. You're American in London, dude. You can get some traction with these girls.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, with that accent for sure. Well, let's talk a
Practice.
little bit about when you did come to England, and we'll talk about. Obviously, you're one of the for the ones that don't know, you started in '78, right?
First race was like, it's probably 1972. And
Wow.
so 78 would have been 78 would have been after I had got fired from Redline. Totally blew my life up. So 78 was like we were already 5 or 6 years deep
Oh
by
wow.
78. By 78, so there was motocross racers, motocross promoters, Ernie Alexander, Scott Bridehop, and then also in San Diego, they were having races at Silver Wing and Rancho San Diego. Um, so this is early '70s when BMX was not officially a sport yet. So like the Yamaha Gold Cup series, the California State Championships, which I'm going to send you a link to the video. It's freaking amazing.
I've seen it with all the crowd, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I believe that's like the end of '73 or very early '74.
Wow. So you really was there at those early days, and like I say, if any pictures of you pop up on Facebook, it always gets so much traction. You know, there's the yeah, you've got so your archives and magazine coverage from those early magazines. You just got amazing pictures in the magazine. You must feel pretty proud for all that history, right?
What was the last part?
I say
Sorry.
you must be really proud for all the great pictures you've had in the magazines from those early days.
Yeah, Dale, I gotta say that oftentimes when on social media, when you're getting uplifted as an athlete, when people are giving you praise and they're responding to posts and saying that you're a legend and you're the man. I just want to say this: that me and my classmate Johnny O'Mara from elementary school to junior high to high school, okay, like in elementary school, we got paper routes to pay for our bike parts. And so what that meant is starting at 5 a.m. 4 days a week to fold the papers and deliver the papers so we can make like $30 to buy bike parts. And so when we got to middle school, junior high school, we trained like crazy because we wanted to be athletes. And the sport really wasn't even a sport yet, but we just believed that this thing was going to be pretty cool. We were doing what motocross racers would have done. I didn't have access to a dirt bike, so I just did it on my BMX bike. But then the doors of opportunities with sponsorships, with going to races, with working with companies like Redline, Shimano, DG, and then getting opportunities to be in the press, to get covers, to get awesome photographs, and being not only from being a racer, but being a member of the industry. And so here's just what I'll say is that I'm so humbled and blessed. And so that's why I try to kind of not be too braggy or whatever, but I'm just so grateful. It's
Yeah.
just I worked my ass off from a kid to do something, and it happened. So
I think, the word legend is, used very, very, it's used a lot in BMX. I mean, it's almost on the daily on social media, but you truly are a BMX legend. And like say, look at me being a magazine guy and a big fan of all you guys. Um, you know, uh, Before my era, it's like your history is so deep. What I wanted to talk to you a little bit about is when you came to Europe. That's when we first saw you in the magazines and on British shores. You came for the 1983 Slag Iron World Championships, IBMXF, and then you came back to England a year later and you did some schools and clinics and stuff, and you was some magazine footage of you over in Ipswich when you're on Scorpion. So maybe share, some of the stories from hooking up with Gerrit Does, Slag Iron, and then on to England.
Yeah, that was a pretty amazing trip. I'm going to refer again back to motocross. For an American rider to go over to Europe when European motocrossers were the catalyst for motocross, it was like a surreal experience. We're teenagers going to Europe, so that was like a surreal experience. But it was like early '84, and I'm working at Scorpion, and Gerrit Does calls me from Holland and says, "Hey, we're going to do a camp at Slugharen for 5 days. It's going to be on TV. I'd be honored if you would be the host of the camp, and it's going to be both in the classroom and it's going to be out on the track. It's going to be televised on Avro TV." And so I said, "Heck yeah, we'll set that up." And so that was like a few months ahead of time. And 2 weeks before the trip, I was all ready, okay? Had a brand new Scorpion kit, brand new JT gear. I designed a new jersey. I got a brand new frame. I got a tricked out bike. Everything's ready to go. I get massive bronchitis 2 weeks before.
Oh.
It's a week before. I'm sick as a dog. It's the day of the flight. I'm still sick as a dog. I get on the airplane and I'm sick as a dog. So I get to Holland. I get to Gerrit's house. For the first 5 days, I'm sleeping like 15 hours a day. What's Gerrit's wife? Mike?
Yes.
Mickey? Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm getting up at like 2. Gerrit's at work. I get up like 2 or 3 in the afternoon, and I'm telling her, "I'm sorry, I'm just sick. I'm getting over this." And so anyway, so we go to the track, and I had a hangover, okay, from being sick, and I'm riding with Peter de Plumen and Ludi van der Werf, okay.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And Ludi's fast then, okay, but like Ludi's spanking me, okay, and I don't understand Dutch, but you can kind of see the sign language when people are saying, "Yo, dude, you're spanking Friday. He's an American pro. Maybe he ain't all that." And Gerrit says, "Hey, dude, he's been sick for 2 weeks, bro." Okay.
Right.
And so they're back and forth. So Gerrit tells me what they said. And so like a week later, I'm back in the saddle. And I'm popping, dude. I'm beating Ludi by like 2, 3, 4 bike lengths to the first turn. Okay. And so when I do that, I turn around and I give him the thumbs up. And I was like, "See, bitch, you're talking shit, man." Dude, and then my gate starts, dude, I was not to brag, but when your gate starts are really good,
Mm-hmm.
when you'll just smash the gate and you don't care if you're going to flip.
Right.
And you got and the gate's good. Mm-hmm. That's the way it was. Yeah. So anyway, we did the camp, and we did the camp, 4-day camp. It was on TV. In fact, what I'll do is wherever you post this, I'll post some photos of that camp and my European trip.
Oh, for sure. So, yeah, I can put him with the video for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So Gerrit lined up also some other track appearances in Odiliapel. I did a demo there, and I also went to Belgium. Okay, and okay, Odiliapel. So I actually raced. There was 2 other races in Holland that I went to, but I didn't race because they were nationals and they wouldn't allow foreign competitors.
Okay.
But my last race in Holland, my last appearance in Holland was Odiliapel, and I got to race. Okay, won the motos in the main, dude. Fucking hit the gate. They were gone. They were gone they left me. Okay.
Right.
But by the finish, I passed everyone and won. Okay. Cool. So that was like, Gerrit was like, "Yeah, that's my boy, Friday. Last to first, dude." This have worked out good. So from there, went to the UK,
Yeah.
and what was super fun and super awesome was my classmate and a Webco BMX team rider, Ricky Miller. He was racing Speedway. He was racing the Speedway circuit in the UK. And so I spent the next almost 4 weeks in the UK traveling around with American Speedway racers, going to all the different counties or whatever it was.
Yeah.
You know, in Speedway racing, I had no idea. I didn't know it was like motocross. It's a Speedway. What is it? It's a club. All the clubs compete against each other, and that was pretty. That got pretty crazy because at some of those events, some of the spectators, they didn't like the Yankees, and they get drunk and they fucking go after us. At a couple of the events, there were some UK blokes that were fucking pissed. They're out of their mind, okay? And they were like coming after us, so we had to leave right after the races because they were gonna hurt us, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then so as there wasn't that much BMX activity, I did a couple clinics, but the one that I remember the most was at Ipswich.
Yes, that's in the magazine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was cool because they did an interview and there were some good kids there. I believe Dylan Clayton might have participated at that clinic.
Wow. He'd have 84. He'd have been around. Yeah. Yeah. He'd have been about 10, 11 years old. So it's possible. Yeah.
Yeah. But what's cool there is Scorpion distribution company was starting. So I had I believe I had a Ford Escort or some kind of Ford car for the whole month there. So I had transportation. But a couple times, I hooked up with Craig Schofield and someone else. It wasn't Andy. I forget who it was. Okay. But they were showing me around town for a few days. And, dude, it was those guys. They're really good car drivers and they like the speed. And so a lot of times they blast into a roundabout. It's
Right.
fully raining. Okay. It's drenched raining. Okay. And like, so it's kilometers back then, right? Not miles per hour.
No, it's miles per hour in England. Yeah. Europe is
Okay.
kilometers, but we always MPR.
Right. Anyway, so fucking Scofield, dude, he's like Ken Block. He just pins it like it's 50, 60 miles an hour into the roundabout and just pitches it sideways. And I'm just like, get me out of here, dude.
Right.
I'm like, I think we're going to die. Okay. But I didn't know that I think he had suspension and good proper tires on his car.
Mm-hmm.
And he was pretty in control. But after a couple of days of that, I was like, fuck no, dude. I don't want to die in the UK. You know? Yeah. But I went when I'd have a few days, I would just like go around town. Like we go to Ricky and I, we hung out on King's Road a few times,
Okay. So you went to
and
London.
that was pretty cool. Talking to the punk rockers and meeting some girls.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see what also. Went to the Birmingham, England track and rode there for like half a day.
Okay. So you went to Birmingham Wheels, the European track, the big track.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Who'd you ride with
yeah.
there? Do you remember?
Dude, I just went there. I got the address and I just got directions and I went there and I just rode it.
Okay.
Yeah. So I wasn't that much of a social butterfly. So I wasn't calling people up to ride there. It was just kind of weird. I was just like kind of floating around, you know?
So you never really
Um,
like befriended any of the pros like Andy Ruffle or Tim March or anybody? You didn't really buddy up with any of them apart from you said Craig?
yeah, I didn't really, far as my personality, I wasn't that, like social butterfly. I didn't think of calling people up, trying to get their phone numbers and call them. Now that I look back, I should have done that. But here's the truth. I was really preoccupied with hanging out with the American Speedway guys.
Mm-hmm.
They during the week they'd be getting their bikes ready, and there was a social scene with them. So we were going to pubs, and getting some pints of lager and lime, and meeting some birds. So I was doing a lot of women chasing while I was there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then at the speedways, okay, because these American riders are well known. There's a lot of birds going to the speedway races, okay?
Right.
And they know we get there, and the birds are like, "Oh, let's go chase after the American guys." So I was like preoccupied with women. Then it was amazing. It was
Yeah.
great. Yeah, I could have I, I could have stayed there. I had a few offers from a few girls. And you want to move here? You can stay here. We got an extra flat for
No
you.
thanks. No thanks. I
Yeah,
mean, why
yeah.
would you could obviously most people from England would love to live in, LA, California and stuff, especially back then. For you guys to come to England, you probably couldn't wait to get back on that plane and head home, right, to the sun?
Actually, because there was so much different activity, there wasn't that much downtime, so it
Mhm,
really wasn't bored, you know. But what I will say though is, at that time, okay, that was at the crossroad when Scorpion was going out of business in the USA,
mhm,
and I was mountain biking. I was just about to get an offer um, from SE Racing to work at SE Racing. Perry Kramer, PK Ripper, was working at SE in the sales. He was a sales manager, and shortly thereafter, he would offer me a job at SE Racing to work at SE. So in the transition to mountain bikes, I John Tomac and I were riding after work. I would come home 2 to 3 days a week, and we would ride. He would ride. He was going to. He moved to California to go to electronics school, and so we would meet up after he went to electronics school, and I got off work at SE. And at this time, this is when Mountain Bike Action magazine is starting on their second magazine, and they were going full bore. So at that time, it was like okay, BMX is still going on, but now mountain bike is going on. I'm riding mountain bikes. Me and Tomac are riding mountain bikes. We're doing good racing mountain bikes, racing the NORBA National Dual Slalom. John's blowing up. I get a job shortly after I was working at SC. Not too long after, I get a job offer at High Torque Publications, which is motocross action, BMX Plus, Dirt Bike Magazine, and this new magazine, Mountain Bike Action. And that's when the mountain bike thing took off.
There's a lot of pictures
And
of you, back then as well. Yeah, those early days of mountain biking, racing slalom, like you said, with a lot of pictures of you and Tomac for sure.
yeah, yeah. And then so Mammoth starts putting on some big races. And the first big race that they put on is a cross country, a dual slalom. This is before they did downhill, okay? And so in the dual slalom, they premiered this as a premiere event. There was like a lot of fans there, and so the podium, okay. There's like a lot of press there, a lot of fans. Podium is John Tomac, Glenn Adams, Byron Friday, Robbie Roop, all BMXers.
Wow.
And I was, yeah. So anyway, that was just a good time as far as doing the whole bike industry transition. BMX is blowing up, mountain bikes is blowing up again. Like, so blessed. I feel so blessed to have these doors of opportunities. But here's the thing, Dale. In BMX, I want to say this. In BMX and in mountain bikes and in cycling, the riders get so much praise and so much press, but equally important behind the scenes are so many people
Mhm.
that are working at the companies, at the bike companies. putting things together and opening the doors of opportunities for the riders. And then, which is so critically important to the equation, is the publications, the photographers. Back then, they're shooting film. It's a lot of effort. It's money to shoot the photos, process the films, and get it all ready for publishing. Okay. Um, so I just want to say that the pioneer journalists in the early days that embraced BMX. Okay, you got Southern California Motocross, you got Cycle Scene newspapers. These are bi-weekly motocross magazines where photographers and story writers worked together, and they featured stories in these motocross newspapers. Okay, so you had Scott Heidebrink, publisher, Southern California Motocross newspaper, also super a minicycle BMX, future to be super BMX. He's a pioneer journalist, basically the pioneer BMX journalist who is an integral part of creating the sport of BMX, birthing the sport of BMX. You've got Patty Toomey, story writer, photographer. Rick Toomey, story writer, photographer. You got Scott Breithaupt, story writer, photographer. You got Kurt Evans, story writer, photographer. You got Suzanne Claspi, story writer, photographer. And last but not least, you got the earliest BMX coverage. Some of the earliest BMX coverage is Palms Park in Santa Monica. I'm reading about in like 1973. I'm reading about Perry Kramer, Robbie O'Hare, aka Dirt Claude, John Palfreyman, Tom Lund, and that is covered by pioneer BMX journalist Richie Lee, who had a daughter by the name of Brenda Lee. She was a badass racer. And so, my main purpose of that, what I just said, is like, if it wasn't for these journalists and these publishers, okay, BMX wouldn't have birthed into what it did at the level that it did.
Are some of
So,
these guys recognized in the USA BMX Hall of Fame and stuff?
Rick Toomey,
Oh, yeah, I remember that
um,
name. Yeah, that name's floats around,
yeah,
doesn't it?
yeah. But that's the reason why I started the BMX audio journals, which I released one episode, which we can share on one of your posts. Um, I've got about 6 episodes already that I record. So it's the birth of a sport, the BMX audio journals. And so
Mhm.
what I'm doing is I'm going back from when BMX was not a sport, and I'm basically explaining how the birth of BMX created. What was the catalyst that this perfect storm happened, where the motorcycle industry, the publishers, the journalists, the photographers, the riders, and the motorcycle companies dumped all kinds of money into BMX. And that created, okay, the traction that BMX needed for the bicycle industry to say, hey, this thing's blown up and the bicycle industry is going to go full bore. So what you have is these untold stories of the birth of BMX, okay? Joking on a Stingray scratches the surface, only scratches the surface. And I've been for a couple of years, I've been trying to come up with a format, but what I realized is if I take a photograph, many different photographs, I got 1,000 words or more that I can talk about that photo and tell a short story on the birth of BMX and how uh, these different people involved in the sport created the sport and the backstories from the earliest days. And that will be at thebmxshow.com.
Absolutely. Byron, we could go in so many different directions on your knowledge, and, like, I talk to you a lot, so I know you've got so many amazing stories, and some of the names you've just mentioned, Johnny O'Mara, John Tomac, and I think you went to school with the girl from Cherry Pie, right? Well, give me the lowdown on her real quick.
Yeah. Okay. So my girlfriend in middle school, her name was Cherie Curry. Her family was in the entertainment industry. She had a twin sister, Marie Curry. And so we kind of like, we're a little crush thing. We talk on the phone after school and at night. And she formed a band. She got together with her friends in Hollywood, Lita Ford, Joan Jett, and two
Wow.
other musicians. And they formed a band called the Runaways. Okay. So if you do a Google photo search for the Runaways, Cherie is the lead singer, and oftentimes you'll see her in a burlesque outfit. She's like 17 or like 17, maybe even 16. It's like pictures that would be on MySpace or TikTok, provocative poses and stuff. But so anyway, Cherie Curry, the Runaways. I'm still friends with her, and we talk, chat by Facebook, instant messenger all the time. It's pretty awesome.
That's cool. There, so you have got so many great stories, and like, yeah, we'll jump on and do more stuff. I wanted to finish it off, Byron, with next week is Dirty Fest. Give us your thoughts on Frogtown Dirty Fest, this whole maybe new thing that's starting to happen on the vintage racing and stuff and gatherings. So, give us your take on all that.
Festivals,
Festival.
BMX,
Yeah. BMX festival.
BMXers, family. Totally awesome. We all talk on social media and we go hang out for a few days where um, collectors, okay? There's a lot of riders that are fans on brands. There's a lot of BMXers who are really following riders. Like we get direct messages from a lot of riders, asking us different questions and just wanting to be friends. And so these festivals are all about, it's like the BMX homies hanging out, It's taking social media to the next level, and it's just fun. And, props to Todd Huffman. So Todd Huffman, mad props, dude. You're the founding father of the BMX festival. Woo!
Right on.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay, so we're growing, the sport's growing and we're continuing on. And the best thing, dude, BMX is such good vibes, you know? Sure, there's a flat pedal debate, and sure, there's a track debate about, BMX has evolved into something completely different.
mm-hmm,
But it's like, dude, it's the evolution, okay? That's just how it is. If
mm-hmm.
you want to have, old school track, do your old school track. Well, here we have. We got Dirty Fest with an old school track, and we got Frogtown with an old school track. So guess what? Your prayers are answered. It's all good, dude. You wanted your old school track? We got two now.
Yeah.
Now here's the thing. Don't be a bitch and not show up. Okay? So you can't complain about the new tracks and not go to Dirty Fest or Frogtown. Don't be a biatch.
Byron, you always post
Yeah.
great stuff. Like I say, you've got photos and you always put good stories behind the photos. I love everything that you post. If anybody who doesn't follow you or maybe wants to and likes to check on some of your stuff, where's the best places to follow everything you do?
I'm on Facebook, okay, Byron Friday, but I'm on also on Instagram. I'm not posting there much, but follow me there. It's aka dot tgif. That's aka dot tgif. And the BMX show will be the future home of the podcast. I'm finishing the website. So the bmxshow.com. I've had that domain since like 2005 or so. First podcast on Apple iTunes, like 2000, like 6.
You
I
downloaded it
guess
on
I'm
AOL.
I guess I'm a podcast pioneer. Ah!
Good stuff, Byron. Good talking, and look forward to catching up next week. And thanks for listening, everybody. Cheers.